Nobody's going to adhere unless they have a really strict discipline, adhere to a training program that they don't enjoy.
One of the things I learned is that I used to challenge myself with intensity and feel. Now I challenge myself with time and zone with my heart rate monitors.
I think it's important to understand that people need to figure out like which bucket of personality trait you fall into. And I think, and I could be wrong, that you can be more than one.
I don't think I'd work with a trainer that didn't have a heart rate monitor on you, measuring what you're doing and paying attention to it over time. Not just now, but looking at it over time. And now I'll tell you, based on what we've talked about today, if you're going to a trainer that's not utilizing...
Good morning. We are diving into studies today. Got your nerd hat on, Don?
And if it's the afternoon, good afternoon. And if it's nighttime, good evening.
Indeed. Yes. Yes. We are putting our nerd hat on because we have some studies to discuss that I know they might sound too academic at the beginning, but I think everybody can relate. Most people can relate to especially one of the studies where we'll talk about personality traits and the types of exercise you are likely to enjoy the most. That's very cool.
And one of our objectives is to bring you information that's based in science. It's not conspiracy or lore or dogma. It's where the science is at, so that you, the listener, have a better chance of being successful at what you do. That's, at the end of the day, that's what Klaudia and I want. And so we spend days, and our typical text string is, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 a day. Hey, take a look at this. You might want to check out this article. This is pretty cool. So that's kind of what our relationship is. But again, we do this because we want you, the listener, to be able to walk away from this with a better understanding and some better tools to make decisions to be successful, to be 90% healthy.
Very well said. Yes, we look through the studies and break them down so you don't have to, because these can get, and frankly, nowadays AI helps. So anybody can perhaps go into PubMed and find a study and put it into ChatGPT and be like, hey, break this study down for me. Help me understand what are some of the key takeaways. So I encourage people who are interested to do that, because it really helps you become a little bit more well-informed in terms of how studies are structured and what are some of the takeaways that you can potentially implement into your own life. But we like to bring you some of the latest and greatest that we come across.
You know what was funny, Klaudia? This weekend, Friday, I went back to my 45th high school reunion.
You did?
And
How was
I've
it?
not been... It was very nice. Now, okay, let's put it in perspective. I had about 90 people in my graduating class, so it was a very small school. The difficult part was 16 of those 90 have left this earth. And so we're starting to look at like 25% of the class has passed on. Getting back and seeing all my classmates, and that was really fun, because there was people I've not seen in 45 years. And a lot of them are doing really good. Like I said, 25% are gone. We just lost 2 more, to cancer. We lost 2 of them to cancer. But the number of classmates that have had organ transplant, joint replacement, things like that, that number is really, really large. And it surprised me, to go back. But it was good. It was a nice trip to get back and see those friends that you had back in elementary and high school, and pretty cool.
That's cool. Was it a restaurant or did you guys rent out a venue?
No, it was, we rented out a little Airbnb there. The little town I grew up in was called Barnesville, Ohio. And it's a town that has gone through feast and famine, that when the coal industry was so big, it was in the heart of the coal industry. So, the employment opportunities were to go be a diesel mechanic or be a truck driver or do things like that.
Yeah.
My parents were very clear. you're going to college, so don't even think about a technical education. But, and then obviously the coal business has crashed in that area. Then fracking came. Then they had a bunch of fracking, had a bunch of people make some good money in fracking. But we've just continued to work our way through this. And it's just nice to go back and, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm doing pretty good. Okay. The investment, by leaving town, the amount of time that I invest in exercise and invest in this kind of stuff, it's paying off.
Do you
One of my classmates, he's walking up the stairs and I said, Todd, how are you doing? He said, I was doing great till I saw you. And then he's like, I've got some work to do. So that was it felt good, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, because you come to a point where as people, progress into their later stages, third of their lives,
Yes.
activity becomes less of a priority,
Oh my God.
unfortunately.
You talk about third. Dee Dee Costello, she was one of my classmates and just this cute as a bug's ear back then. She comes in and we're talking. She says, you won't believe this, but my grandson is wrestling for Barnesville and just qualified for the state tournament. And I'm like, oh my God. um,
Yeah,
that's my grandson's qualifying. And that kind of threw me back just a little bit, but it was still pretty cool.
that's funny. Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm glad you
Yeah.
had a good time. That sounds like
Yeah.
a really, really good time.
It was nice. Drove
That's
five
good.
and a half hours down, was there for 3 hours and drove 5.5 hours back. So a
Wow.
lot of
Talking about
driving.
getting around. That's a lot of driving. Gosh.
Been thoroughly impressed. It's, we've known the science for a long time. I started playing with blood flow restriction about 3, 4 years ago when I had such a bad knee surgery, and I was working my way back. But when I really, I had a great event back in December, January, that I was able to go skiing with my daughter out in Lake Tahoe. Claudia, I would have never been able to ski with my dad when he was my age. He did not have the
Yeah.
ability to do it. He was beat up. And the idea that I can do that now with my daughter, and we skied for 2 days, but my limiting factor was not my knee, it was my fat ass. So I'm fixing that.
That is so cool. The reason I bring it up, because one of the studies we're going to be talking about today, or we're bringing up to you guys, is around blood flow restriction. There was a study of college students, so a young population who are obese. It was 26 people who were divided into 3 groups. One that was the control group did no training at all. Then there was the second group that did low intensity resistance training at low load. And then the third group did low intensity resistance training with blood flow restricted. And the results were just fantastic on so
Mm-hmm.
many biomarkers and so many aspects of body composition when the group added blood flow restriction to the low load resistance training.
Right.
It's like we've talked about this where there's not many silver bullets, but this might just be one of them. This is another study that shows that this is really good.
Listen, every time we see this, I'm like, okay, you're crazy for not doing this. And by the way, Dr. Habib just hit my phone. He's going to be on the schedule. So we'll have him in one of our future podcasts. But there's a couple things when we look at 90% healthy, getting the most. Blood flow restriction is just crazy good, number one. And number two is that when we look at this, when you look at training from your autonomic balance, from your vagal nerve, is it whether you're using breathing exercises, whether you're using visual feedback breathing like with a heart math, or whether you're doing carotid vagal nerve stimulation. I'll tell you, I'm watching this vagal nerve stimulation with my wife right now, and it's working like Ozempic. I mean, yes, and I had not put two and two together. I was listening to Dr. Habib's podcast. They did a whole episode on this. We can link it in our notes. It's an excellent episode, and I changed the way I use the tool. And man, That's one of the benefits. So as we think about the podcast and we think about our audience and we think about, you, the listener, this is what we're trying to do. So here, what are the little hacks? Because, Klaudia and I work in this area called biohacking, modifying both our internal and external environments to optimize the work that we do. What we know is that we have to do work. You have to move more. You have to pay attention to nutrition. You have to pay attention to sleep. You have to pay attention to light. These are all key elements. But how? How do we hack these? I'm pretty sure that measuring your success by the size of the puddles that you sweat is not an effective key performance indicator. But when we look at these key markers, I mean, this blood flow restriction group had a drop in body fat percentage, had a drop in waist to hip ratio, had an increase in lean mass and muscle mass, had an increase in knee extension, elbow flexion, so that's measuring torque and power strength, had an increase in muscular endurance. Check, 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 check. That's what we're looking for, because this is what leads us. Again, when we talk about the definition of fitness, the physical capacity to enjoy the life we're given, this is what, and again, when we think about metabolic economics, we've talked about that term too. Where do I get the most return on my investment? This is a hell of an investment tool.
Yeah. And it wasn't a matter of, I'm trying to find exactly how many weeks the study was. Was
I
it
think it
an
was 12. I think it was 12.
12-week study? Okay. Yeah, so in 3 months you can achieve such tremendous progress toward the right direction, and without literally killing yourself with every workout. Because for a lot of people, I
Yeah.
used to be the person, like, if I didn't die, I didn't really work out hard enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I don't do that anymore. Even nowadays, yes, I do have a couple of high intensity interval training types of workouts once a week usually. But majority of it is lower intensity and more like time under tension, which almost without BFR, but BFR really boosts that time under tension types of mechanistic load. So it has such great outcomes. I wonder how long these people can, maintain all of these positive impact once they stop.
Well, there's the secret. Once they stop, I mean, listen, Ray Kroc, the inventor of McDonald's, the developer of McDonald's, said, if you're green, you're grown, and if you're ripe, you're rotten. So as long as you're investing, you're green, you're growing, you're moving forward. And the data is becoming very clear on this. We used to think, I'm a certain age, I can't do this anymore, or I'm a certain age, there's going to be there are certain declines that are predictable, and we resign ourselves to that. This is blowing up in real time. That what we're seeing is that there are people that are very successfully improving physiological performance, cognitive performance, all these key metabolic performance, all these key elements deep into their into their 80s and 90s. So we don't have to do that anymore. But we also don't have to do a CrossFit workout every day and blow ourselves up to get the benefit.
Certainly not. And we went into details about blood flow restriction a few episodes ago. So I will link that in the show notes just so you can go back and listen to the deeper dive. But you mentioned that, these participants had even cardiometabolic improvements. Their blood pressure decreased. Their fasting glucose, HbA1c, and insulin resistance index decreased, which is what we want. Their LDL decreased. Their HDL, good cholesterol, increased. So it's like all the things that you want to have as a trajectory for your health, especially if you are in the bucket of being overweight or wanting to really optimize your metabolic health. These are the needles that are moving the right direction. And It's awesome.
Well, remember, 2/3 of the population are considered overweight. Okay. Or pre-diabetic. So literally, but you don't, again, the point is this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an environment that's causing us to move less, eat shittier food, sleep less, and get poorer light. Okay. We know this. This is very clear. But what we're learning, and what this article reinforces, all of the performance indicators, structural strength, cardiovascular, in the plumbing. And then we even go down into the autonomic. When we look at HRV, we saw an improvement in RMSSD. That's the parasympathetic tone, or when we look at our autonomic performance. All of these tools improved. So they will improve, and the study showed this, they will improve with just low-level exercise. But if you blood flow restrict it, there is a significant improvement with this that's going to, and again, I'm excited when we finally get through the Dr. Habib episode. I love the idea of taking a look at BFR, leveraging this with vagal nerve stimulation, things like whether it's direct stimulation, whether it's indirect, using even the Apollo Neuro tools. Our friend David Rabin and his Apollo Neuro. What a cool tool that I know. I use it when I have big speaking engagements. I will wear my Apollo Neuro. I will use my Apollo Neuro when I'm in a bad sleeping cycle, when something, we may be driving back and forth across the country. Okay. That just wrecks my systems. So I've got to kind of tune them up. So I'll use my Apollo Neuro during that. Or when I'm getting ready to speak at a big conference, I'll put it on just to get me focused in. That's all autonomic tuning. And then you throw in some of these other tools on top of it. It's really exciting. The idea that we can help people improve health, longevity, performance, fitness, all these things, but do it with good economic investment. It doesn't take 3 hours a day. It takes simple walks. It takes simple processes, and there's huge benefits that can be realized.
Would love to see personal trainers starting to work with this instead of putting their clients through intense workouts, and perhaps even because I see sometimes people who are novices in the world of working out just starting. I see a lot, especially around January. I worry because I see their form isn't correct. It's too much load. So there are mistakes that are made. Now, if the trainers would just use lower load and blood flow restrict, that would be, I think, so much more of a feeling of success on the side of the client, and they would feel like they don't have to literally kill themselves in order to achieve a result. Think it would may lead to higher retention even in terms of working out, because we all see that by the time March comes around, a lot of people, it dies off because people just can't maintain. But what if with blood flow restriction, you can start to see results at a rate where instead of dropping off, they would start to notice, okay, this is working. So they would have a little bit more motivation to keep on going. So it would be
So
interesting to see.
you made an interesting statement there. So let's take a step back and let's analyze, what does a good personal trainer do that separates them from everybody else? Number one, Klaudia, I don't know how you train without a heart rate monitor. Okay. And I don't know how you train someone else. So if you go to a personal trainer, and I've been teaching personal trainers for 35 years. This is, the whole time I was a professor, that's exactly who was in my classroom. And one of the things I always said to my kids is that personal trainers come in two groups. Either one, you're in a group that's also in a group with actresses, models, and hookers. Okay. These are people that look good and you pay money to be with them. Okay. One way or the other. So you have that type of personal trainer. But then you have the personal trainer that is able to focus on key performance indicators. What are your goals? How do we measure them? And I used to tell my students back when I was teaching at Columbus State is that a professional personal trainer should be someone that your client can expect these measurable changes. Okay. There's an expectation that can be there, and we can measure them. We can, there's a way to scientifically the personal trainer that wants to be an actress, model, or hooker doesn't work on that terms. They look good. They wake, and you know what? So I actually used that line. I was out in Los Angeles working at the Los Angeles Athletic Club. And this was 25 years ago. And I used that line, and the director of personal training is in the back of the group, and his eyes got this big when I said that. And I thought, oh, maybe I was a little too aggressive there. And he go and so we finish up the session and we're talking. I said, I hope I didn't offend somebody. He goes, no. He says, you were spot on. He said, of all these personal trainers, every one of them has a SAG card. Every one of them wants to be an actor. They're all just working here. Instead of working in a restaurant, they're working as personal trainers because they look good, but they just look good. So it doesn't necessarily translate.
That's too funny. Yeah, it would be interesting, and that's a great point because I see us, and not only in individualized one-on-one personal training sessions where I see those, but also in group fitness classes. Like I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
taking group fitness classes.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, you have 25, 30 people in the class and you're all doing the same exercise. It's not like that intense as you're using the machines outside, but there's still weights involved and squats and things where you need to have a appropriate form. And I see some people making mistakes and their knees go in front of their toes when they're squat, and it's just like and it's I
Yeah,
miss those
two
corrections
things
need to
there.
be.
Two things there. Um, it's important to note that the personal training industry is not full of broken bones and dead bodies. Okay. You can really jack up exercise and someone can get through it. It's probably going to affect your whether the clients come back or not, but you're probably not going to put them in the hospital. Most, for the most part.
You're right.
For the most part, number one. Number two is that when we take a look at this process, I know my wife loves group exercise. Now, it's not enough that she likes being in group exercise. She loves leading group exercise. And it's kind of funny because I watch her. She loves teaching Zumba. Zumba is she loves teaching Zumba. But what I found was when she started teaching the classes, she backed way off on the amount of energy that she was putting into the class. She was putting energy into choreographing and doing all this stuff and then coaching her people through, but she wasn't doing the classes anymore. So, it's kind of funny. So, this second article that we talk about, the personalities, what work, I don't train well with others. I
I
am
remember. Yeah.
I like to be by myself. I like to be in my space. If I want to do something with other people, we'll go play golf or something like that. But when I'm working, even when I ride my bike, I mean, I really don't like, now I'm so freaking slow on a bike right now. I got passed by an Amish guy in work boots on a recumbent the other day. I'm so slow, but that's okay. I'm working my way back, but I'm a very much an individual, had to be for me to be successful in my sport. I had to train by myself because no one could keep up with me. The work I needed to do, no one could do it. I'm kind of big too, so I'm moving a lot more weight than most people move, and it just I don't do well in groups. But my wife, she loves them.
That's so interesting. Yeah, it's very, very cool to see how different personality traits translate into what types of exercise you enjoy. And the study that came out recently it started to make headlines, so we thought it would be worth talking about it. And first of all, I think it's important to understand that people need to figure out like which bucket of personality trait you fall into. And I think, and I could be wrong, that you can be more than one. I'm pretty sure. So the 5 personality traits this study looked at was extroversion, conscientiousness, neuroticism, agreeableness, and openness to experience. Now, I'm pretty sure that I fall into both extroversion and agreeableness and openness to experience. I'm like in 3 buckets.
Yeah.
But I don't know, which one do you think you are?
I tend to be an extrovert. Okay, so, but I'll tell you, back right out of grad school, 1980, to get a job working in a health club back then. I was wound up managing it. And I got to the point where I had a hat that I would put on that says do not disturb. Because when you're managing the facility, everyone thinks they have access to you. But when I want to get my workout in, I would put this hat on. Now, what I've learned to do is I just go to a different facility now. Okay. If I'm in a situation where I'm running one facility and I go somewhere else where no one knows me. But again, going back to and feeding my need to focus to get in there, you know what? I think consciousness, wait, I'm not pronouncing that right.
Conscientiousness.
Conscientiousness,
Conscientiousness. Yes.
organized, disciplined, reliable. Once I start my workout, I have a very clear idea of what I want to do.
Yeah, I think you probably fall into that.
And anyone who starts to anybody starts to interfere with me trying to get through this, I start to get agitated.
Uh-huh.
It's like, okay, you're fucking with my time right now. Back off. Um, and tends to be disciplined. Once I'm in the workout, my discipline, I am not disciplined on getting all my workouts in a month. I have to always work on that. That's my challenge. I am reliable though. So, I'll tell you one of the other things that's been hard for me to learn is that if I'm working out in a big public facility, I see the same things you see. That's wrong. This isn't right. This is, but I just keep it to myself. Okay.
Same.
Yeah, they
Yeah, I
didn't
never.
they didn't pay me for that advice that day, so I'm keeping it to myself. And frankly, I keep it to myself until someone pays me for it. But yeah, that's always running. That aspect is always running. But I just have to learn to keep my mouth shut.
That is so interesting. And funnily, I mean, I notice, let me break down before I say anything else to so our listeners understand what each categories mean for types of workouts. So the extroversion person who's more of an extrovert, more of an energetic, outgoing person enjoying social settings, their exercise profiles seem to be preferring high intensity workouts, team sports, group fitness, and competition. And they enjoy max effort according to the study. Now, the person who's the conscientious person, they like you mentioned, the organized, disciplined, reliable type of individual. Their exercise profile is more consistent, routine, structured, progress. So they are the people who like give me the plan and let me stick to the plan.
Yeah, leave me
That's what I
alone.
want to do. Like I do not want to think about what I have to do. Just give me what I'm doing. So they're not necessarily going for working out because I mean, obviously it does release those happy hormones, but they don't get all that enjoyment. It's like tick the box
Hmm.
type of person. And then we've got the neurotic individual who's more prone to stress, a little bit higher anxiety, emotional ups and downs. They just want to be in and out, prefer shorter, lower pressure workouts with breaks. However, the study found that they get the most benefit from exercise in terms of perceived stress
Mm,
reduction. So that's very interesting, especially so if you're higher, more prone to anxiety, exercise can really help relieve it, which has been found in many studies before.
sure.
This isn't the first time this has been pointed out. And then we've got the person who is the agreeable, who's a little bit like me, like friendly, cooperative. Yeah, sure, let's do that. And then, or the ones who enjoy just going on long runs and cycling or walking and just chit chatting with people and really and it's less competitive and more of the enjoyment types of higher endurance people. And then we've got, which is also me, the openness to experience, who's curious, open to try new classes, new workouts, and love to change up the routines. And that is totally me. Like every time I visit my brother, whatever class they usually go to, if they are going to some type of a more structured workout or gym, I always go with them at 5 o'clock in the morning. So it's one of those things like, yeah, I want to try.
You know what's funny about that? The thing that jumped out at me is the competitiveness as it came down through and I go back and I think back, oh God, let me see, Jacqueline was probably in high school. So it's been 10, 15 years ago. And I was working with a company and they had this really cool product. It was called the Fitness League. And the company, we had like 25 people in the company. So we broke into 5 teams of 5 and the software collected our heart rate data and pooled it into our teams so that we had goals every week that and it was this league, so team A versus team B, and we worked through this league, and then depending on how you do, we went into this tournament at the end. And during the league there was there were caps on how much you could do, so a lot of us were hitting 100% pretty easy. But when we went into the competition at the end, the bracketed competition, they took the caps off. So it was like cyclists, marathoners, people like that gained a huge advantage because your numbers just took off. Well, first of all, Laura comes home one night and I have a full fitness facility in our house at this time. Okay. So, and I'm training and so forth. And Laura comes home from work and I'm back in our gym on the stationary bike with the lights out on the bike, riding 1 beat above the line to get me into that zone. One
Yeah.
beat. I just sat there and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, well, welcome to Don Moxley competitiveness. Okay. I try not to throw this switch because when I compete, it's full on. Okay. When I say, okay, we're going. See right there, I got that bug on you.
There's a freaking moth. I can't stand them.
Nice. Um,
Sorry.
so we and then we have to go up to New York. Jacqueline's playing lacrosse up in Lake Placid, New York. And at the time, I did not have a bike rack for our Jeep. So, but we were going to be gone for a week. And this was like the prime time for the league. This was when, winning and losing took place. So I went out, engineered a bike rack for the Jeep, put my bike on the Jeep, rode every day. And wait, now, was the competitiveness good for me? Yeah, it probably drove me a little bit. Is it a little bit unhealthy? Maybe. I'm willing to accept that, but I tend not to try to throw that switch because I know when I throw that switch, I become neurotic. I become focused and I don't lose. So, so depending on who the competition is, it winds up getting pretty intense.
That is so interesting. It's funny how I mentioned it, how you just went all in. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and her husband is planning to he loves to challenge himself and just kind of set this, for most people, unrealistic, ridiculous goals in terms of physical activity and endurance
Uh-huh.
primarily. So recently he came with the idea that he's going to do 24 hours straight on the stair stepper. Crazy idea? Yes. Is it good for you? Probably not. But at the same time, it's one of those things where, like, you know what? I'll stand behind your crazy.
Yeah. And did he raise money? Did he do it like a charitable thing?
No, he's just doing it. It was supposed to be. So unfortunately, celiac, he recently had a little bit, an exposure. So he had a terrible situation going on for a few weeks, and now he's just recovering. But he had planned to do that as part of their anniversary, I think, if I'm correct. I think it was going to be some type of a day. And then, but then this whole thing happened. So he's pushed it off. And then he wants to do something 41 hours for his 41st birthday. So he has these goals just to do
Yeah, I
something.
don't have that. I don't have that problem. Well, and listen, for 2 years of my life, I trained 6 hours a day, every day for 365 days a year. It was interesting. So we finished wrestling nationals. So essentially my wrestling career was over at that point. That was 1985. Big trials would have been 3 years away. I had at the time the winningest wrestler in the history of United States wrestling in my weight class, a guy by the name of Bruce Baumgardner. And I'm not saying I think I could have given Bruce a run for his money, but to that point, I'd already had 5 knee surgeries. So I was already dealing with a bit of a resistance. But I remember, we wrestled nationals. We fly down to Florida. We're drunk for 10 days. We fly back to Columbus, start to sober up. And about 2 weeks after that was all over, and this is the first time I had not trained hard 6 hours a day in 3 or 4 years. And I remember waking up in the morning, and I had to sleep on a waterbed because my joints hurt so bad that if I didn't sleep on a waterbed, I just woke up just aching. So I wake up in my waterbed and I stand up one morning and I think to myself, I don't hurt today. And I had not felt this in a long time. And so, what was interesting about that, it was shortly thereafter, I was working with Polar. And then I got to know Chris Carmichael, who was Lance Armstrong's coach, who was talking about threshold training. And again, I've done my graduate work in exercise physiology. I've never heard the term of threshold training. This was new to the industry. I come back and I'm working for Polar. So now I have this access to technology that was just like giving an addict crack. And so all of a sudden I learned to ratchet down my workouts to do zone 2, zone 3 workouts, because normally when I would train to where I felt it. That's zone 4. Okay. And I was leaving money on the table. Metabolic economics. I was not getting the most of it. So I backed that off and man, I've been growing ever since. But going back to your friend, and I follow a gal on social media. Her name's Ashley Horner. She's a physical fitness person, lives out in Virginia Beach. She's married to a naval special operator. She's just a stud. Okay, there's just no two ways about it. She's just a freaking stud. But she does this thing every year where she rows. She's on a rower for like 24 hours to raise money for the military and military things like that. I love things like that. That's so cool. And I will write them a check as often as I can. I won't do it.
But it's,
Screw that. But I'll write the check.
yeah. Yeah, for me, endurance, long distance stuff is not really my cup of tea, and it has never been. I guess I just haven't really found myself trained for it. I'm sure if I trained, I would achieve it. But then again, would I enjoy it at the level that I enjoy a more exciting, intense workout? I don't know. I haven't tried it, but that's the point of finding your training is enjoyment. Nobody's going to adhere unless they have a really strict discipline and conscientious that adhere to a training program that they don't enjoy. It's pretty much it's like 101 of physical activity. You will continue doing it if you really like doing it. And that was the point of the whole study, is finding the enjoyment from the exercise based on personality trait. The more the exercise matches your trait, the more likely you are to enjoy it and adhere to it. And I would encourage everybody to kind of figure out, and it doesn't mean that what you're doing right now is wrong if you don't enjoy it, but at the beginning, it may be worth doing some trial and error types of little mini study with yourself and try a dance class, try a cycling class, try a workout class or like a resistance training class and see how your body responds.
Don't feel like you have to bury yourself. Number one. Yes.
Yeah, no.
So, but the other thing too, Klaudia, if you don't enjoy it, you won't keep doing it. Okay. No one shows up to go get smacked on the back of the hand with a hammer every day. You're going to stop going to that. I don't care how much they pay you, but if you're just getting smacked and beat up and it's hurting and you're not enjoying it, you won't go back. This is the reason I love this concept. There's a psychological concept that's called flow, the psychology of the optimum experience. And you know what? If you're trying to figure out how to, flow works in a lot of aspects of life. But this is one of the things that I learned back from my sports psychologist that I worked with. Concentration on a task at hand, clear goals and feedback. There is a measurable skill. There's a measurable, trainable skill. And there's a whole series of aspects. You have to challenge yourself. One of the things I learned is that I used to challenge myself with intensity and feel. Now I challenge myself with time and zone with my heart rate monitor. So this is my clear goals and feedback. So it gives me the ability to ratchet down. I don't have to go until my eyes are bleeding and I'm swimming in sweat. I can clearly take a look at how much work did I do, what was my heart rate, are my goals moving the direction I want? We kind of bring it full circle now. The things I look for from a trainer that if I were going to, number one, I don't think I'd work with a trainer that didn't have a heart rate monitor on you, measuring what you're doing and paying attention to it over time. Not just now, but looking at it over time. And now I'll tell you, based on what we've talked about today, if you're going to a trainer that's not utilizing blood flow restriction and making it part of the program, well, if you find someone that does, you found a good trainer right there. So I think that's important. And there's trainers, you can go to like Be Strong. We'll put a link in. I don't remember what the web, it's not what you think it is.
It's Be Strong training.
Training. Okay.
Training.
But training. Yep. You can go there and find trainers in your area. Listen, I think these are some of the key elements of what great trainers do. Create key performance indicators. I think if I go to a trainer and I'm going in for weight loss as a trainer, the first thing I do is we go figure out where we can get a dual X-ray DEXA scan. And I get a DEXA scan, and then I go ahead and I use skin fold calipers, and I get skin fold calipers so that I can measure progress in between my DEXA scans. But I think one of the key performance indicators for health is lean mass and a DEXA scans, and you can get them for like $50 now. So if you're getting a DEXA scan twice a year for $50, you got to do that.
That's a true data-driven type of training.
Yeah.
It's not as common as you would think. Honestly, I think it's not as common
No, it's
as it should be. Some gyms now
no,
have
and
the
that's the difference between a
Embody
good trainer and
that
not.
I heard very, very bad feedback on. Like it's not as accurate as you would think. And it can be very easily manipulated based on how hydrated you are, what you ate the morning before or the day before. It's
Yeah.
just not gold standard.
It's better than nothing. It's better than
Mhm.
nothing. It has some interesting insights. If you're going to measure body comp using bioelectrical impedance, that's what the InBody does. You want the four element body comp. You want feet and hands so it can measure the whole body. You don't want to just stand on something and not hold, or hold something and not stand. You want all 4 points. But like I said, second, third, there's a good reason to do DEXA. You get bone density, you get body comp, you get these things, and it's a pretty accurate way to do it. It's what I recommend.
Yeah, I agree. Very cool. Very exciting studies. I do want to bring our audience's attention to if they find any study that they want us to break down, just send us the link and we'll take a look at it and see how legit it is, see how appropriately designed it is, and whether the results were cherry picked or actual legit. So we're open. We love breaking down studies. Who would have thought, thinking of seeing me back in high school, I could not stand biology or any type of science class. And here I am
Really?
looking at PubMed on a daily basis and reading science daily for what's going on and how certain biological processes work. And I actually enjoy it.
Yeah,
I think my
but you
biology teacher would pull his hair out. I'm like, what happened to you?
Well, no, listen, at the end of the day, you're a journalist and you're very good at that. And I think
Yeah.
that's the focus. You happen to be, you've been able to combine journalism with this physical activity stuff that we do that we get so much fun out of. Um,
Yeah.
whether you're doing the deep dive into cellular metabolics or things like that. And we've actually got a couple other stories coming up, studies coming up talking about this. But I think that's the reason we're a good team. You're a great journalist. I do the science
You're a great
and
scientist.
focus on that, and we get to hammer through this. So if there's studies out there, if there's things, if you have questions about it, please let us know. We'd love to talk to you and answer your questions for you.
Indeed. Very cool. Thanks so much, Dom, for being a partner in this because I wouldn't be able to break this down by myself.
We have a lot of fun. I go back to November when I was driving across the country, and I said, Klaudia, we got to do a podcast. So I'm so happy that you said yes.
Yeah, this has been fun. And
Okay.
lots more fun to come. So stay tuned, subscribe, comment, let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you want us to talk about. And yeah, if you have any questions or even suggestions for guests,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
can come in too. And you can find me at longevityjournalist.com and you can find Don at Train Recover Win. Is it trainrecoverwin.com or .wordpress.com?
Either
Because
one.
I,
Either one.
either one? Okay.
Yeah. Trainrecoverwin.com will bring you to that. Or you can find us on LinkedIn, shoot us a
Yes.
note there. We will answer that. I don't know that I'd recommend that you reach out on like Instagram or Meta or any of the platforms like that because I don't necessarily watch those that close. I pay close attention to my direct email and my LinkedIn. Too much junk in the other spots. So
Yeah, I do. You can find me on Instagram, but also LinkedIn is just a super easy way to.
I'm there, but if you want to talk to me, reach out to me if you reach out to me on Facebook, there's probably a 1 in 9 or 1 in 10 chance I'll see it. Maybe.
I second that. Facebook is
Yeah.
very
If you reach out on Instagram, it's probably better than 50-50. On LinkedIn, we're off to the races. Or if you send us an email, Don Moxley at trainrecoverwin.com, you can get it there.
to the races. Cool.
Off to the races. Have a great
Thank
day,
you.
Klaudia.
Have a great day. See you next week.
We'll see you.